It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. I'm Gary McNamara. He is Eric Harley. As we're looking at some of the morning headlines.
Yes. We have a new headline here and a quote. We're going to analyze this the way that they do at MSNBC, so pay attention here.
Right.
Here's the quote from Senator Mitt Romney, prominent Democrat. He's I could be wrong about that, but it's we're MSNBC. We can be wrong about a lot of things and get away with it. Here's the quote. I think it's a little demeaning to show up in front of a courthouse, and particularly one where we're talking about an allegation of paying a porn star. Our conclusion here at MSNBC, Mitt Romney is against paying for porn stars.
They ought to be free. I like that.
There should be no charge.
I think that's a pretty critical thinking analysis.
I think it's the way to break it down, isn't it?
You know, by the way, Romney sounds like an idiot, just like Liz Cheney, who did the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Got nothing to do with the paying a porn star. That's not the point.
Right.
The point is prosecuting somebody and not identifying what the crime is. And if he can't see that, he needs to get out.
If you don't see what the law is, if you don't know what the law is, I mean, he had this approach during the impeachments too. If you don't understand the process and the law, and then now he wants to be this fence walker. Go walk the fence somewhere else.
Yeah.
Walk it off into the sunset.
Well, at least do it with some form of sophistication, but you're letting everybody know that you're either clueless or you're intentionally playing stupid, and that's what he's doing. Well, he's intentionally playing, I'm stupid here.
Yeah.
And this is a case about somehow an illegal payment for a prostitute for porn. They both begin with P, for a porn star.
Yeah. Well, I think most of Mitt Romney's problems over the last year have been the advent and the rise of AI. And so his model as a robot is going to be, in many ways, already quickly outdated. His updates aren't taking like they used to. He doesn't have the same firmware. It's just, it's just going badly. He's going to be, at some point, he's just going to be put in the closet like the other robots and won't be used.
I still get emails because you had said this a long time ago. Mm-hmm. This has to be going back, 12 years at least.
Yeah. When
you said Romney's a robot.
Mm-hmm.
And that every time one of our listeners who heard that comment from you, because you've said it more than once,
mm-hmm.
and that Last Man Standing episode with Tim Allen, with his youngest daughter in Last Man Standing, driving in the truck and talking about the 2012 election. And Tim Allen actually goes, well, Romney, he really is a robot. Every time somebody sees that in syndication, we get emails going, well, I saw it. Tim Allen actually said it. They must have been listening to you. That's where they got it from.
Yeah, well, maybe. Quite possibly. Look, I don't think anyone even questions the very fact that we are the most influential talk show of all time. We talked last week about the GOP needs to show up there at the courthouse, and not only did the GOP show up, GOP leadership, the Speaker of the House showed up.
And we predicted what Karine Jean-Pierre,
yeah,
how she would respond to Biden lying twice that inflation was at 9% when he took office.
You blame it on Trump.
And she blamed it on Trump. And we predicted yesterday she would blame it on Trump.
And she did just that.
Yeah, she did.
She did just that. Even the GOP is kind of halfway walked So far, they're halfway into it of saying what you have said they need to say, and that is the Democrats and President Biden will not and cannot fix the problems because they created the problems. And the other day, the GOP posted the Biden administration, the Democrats created the problems.
Right. They won't solve the border situation because they created the border situation.
Mm-hmm.
So they're getting there. They're paying attention to us.
Right. Reluctantly.
Yeah.
We know that. Listen, just keep up the good work. Thank you for listening. We're the station that cares. Thank you to Tim Allen's writers for listening years ago, and they long-term writers. Everyone knows I'm the first one to say Die Hard is a Christmas movie. That's a fact. That's a fact. And it's now
thank you, Maestro.
Yeah, it's become a thing. Again, I think there's proof. Well, go back to the Obama years when Obama would have these really long answers in his press conferences that he had talking to the media. His approval numbers would drop, and we were like, man, if we were advising him, we'd say, stop giving these press conferences. He went on like a 10-month hiatus. Not just days after we said it. They cut him off. They just stopped having them. And then we said, whatever it was, 9-10 months later, we said, look, at some point you're going to have to get back to having a press conference. And 2 days after we said that, they announced he was going to have a press conference. It is clear. It is a fact. We are the most influential talk show of all time.
And when you said, and that's a fact, that's why I called you Maestro, because the character in Seinfeld, played by Mark Metcalf, said that one time. He goes, and that's a fact.
And that's a fact.
And that's
it is a fact.
When you said that, I went, it's Maestro.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
By the way, played Niedermeyer in Animal House.
Yeah. And also played Niedermeyer in the Twisted Sister videos.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with your life?
I want to rock.
As an actor, as a non-musician, he probably got more airplay in the 80s on MTV than any other actor. Just from that one video. You can't dispute it. We clearly are driving everything. Now,
in our own humble way.
Oh, of course. And
non-promotion.
Yeah.
Non-promotional way.
We are the number one. In terms of being humble, we are no one even comes close to being as humble as we are. Not even close. There's not even a second or third. We're numbers 1 through 100, and then the rest of them fall after number 100. We're as humble organizations and talk shows go, there's no one that's ever been better at it than us. Yeah.
All right. In other news, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I'm reading this direct headline from the New York Post. So this is a quote of the headline. Anti-sex beds have arrived at Paris Olympics after horny athletes admit to orgies amid competition.
Well, what kind of competition was this?
Anti-sex beds have arrived in Paris.
Okay.
With their materials and small size allegedly aimed at deterring athletes from getting kinky during the competition. The bed's twin size mean there's no room for the competitors to sidle up together. Again, another Seinfeld word. The beds are manufactured by Airweave, which also made the products for the 2020 Olympic Games in Tokyo, Japan. My whole point is, wasn't it just a couple of years ago they kept promoting the fact we're distributing thousands and thousands and thousands of condoms at every Olympics? Now they're discouraging sex? They don't say why they're discouraging sex, though. Is it I have to ask, is it climate change? Are they abiding by the fact of what we've heard this week, that we need to reduce the population of the earth in order to save the planet?
No, yeah.
I got to ask the question.
Yeah, the risk of putting more humans on the planet. Yeah, could be.
But they never say, I've read 2 different articles, they've never said why they are discouraging the sex.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that in any story.
Well, but I think this is a 100% solution because everyone knows that the only place you can have sex is in a bed.
Well, they did talk about that. They said, well, at the previous Olympics, a lot of the people weren't using beds.
Yeah. This'll stop them. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Who was the it was a Tiger Woods story before the Masters that he wasn't having sex. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well,
I mean, is it based on new medical science that not having sex makes you a better athlete? I mean, why would the Olympics, that for years has promoted promiscuity through saying we're giving out tens of thousands of condoms? Well, you only got, like, remember the one year where it was like, well, wait a minute, you're giving out like 50 condoms to every athlete. It's
Right.
only 2 weeks.
Right.
Well, they are young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, they were late for the competition today.
Right.
They never came out of the dorms. But seriously, I mean,
half of the track team disappeared during the competition.
the cross country athletes never came out of the woods.
Yeah, right. Where'd they go? What happened?
But I mean, what happened at the Olympics? I mean, did I miss this? Did it change? They were promoting promiscuity, and now they're like, no, we're going to make it so we're going to have beds with steel spikes in them, so nobody will have sex.
Well, then they had to tell the triathletes it's TRI, not TRY. So stop it. Stop it right now.
Well, try. I was thinking something else.
Yeah. Yeah. Stop trying.
Oh, God.
Give up.
So there you go. That's what's happening. That's what's happening or not happening at the Olympics.
And you saw where, this is a couple of months ago, where the apartments that they're building so that they don't use air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're setting them up. They've redesigned them, so that you don't have certain windows facing where the sun's going to be later in the day or early in the morning.
And there's already been criticism with some of the athletes saying they need to bring their own air conditioning.
Right. Yeah, that was in fact, they had teams saying immediately, well, we're bringing air conditioning because that's how our athletes get sleep, which is going to be important because they're going to be having a lot of sex and they're going to need sleep. Has nothing to do with the competition.
Forget the training.
Forget the medals. We need turn on some air. It's the environmentalists are just going to do away with it. Why do the competition at all?
Yeah, because the athletes are then eating more food, therefore breathing heavier.
Well, they all got to get on a plane and fly there.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
but I don't know the reason. I haven't seen any reasoning for why are they discouraging sex at the Olympics when they did the opposite for years. And my first thought was climate change.
Yeah, well,
it can't be because of morality.
No. No.
Can it?
No.
This is Olympic Committee we're talking about.
And it is France. They don't have morals there. So it's not that. It's climate change. It has to be climate change.
866-90 Red Eye.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Cattle and beef supplies are getting smaller this year and will really start to tighten up in 2025.
We're forecasting beef production down by almost 1.5 billion pounds.
USDA Outlook Chairman Mark Jekanowski says that represents about a 5% decline from this year.
Just again reflecting the fact that cattle inventories are going to, they're tightening up and they're going to continue to tighten, and there's just going to be fewer cattle available to market moving into next calendar year.
Producers have been in a herd contraction mode, not holding as many heifers for breeding, but instead selling those animals for what have been very good prices. And Mark says we'll see even higher prices next year, prices averaging about 2.5% higher.
Just reflecting those tighter supplies and continued strong demand.
Mark says it could be 2027 before cattle producers begin to rebuild the beef herd. Gary Crawford for the U.S. Department of Agriculture.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. A bill aimed at kicking illegal immigrants out of the United States if they assault a police officer passed the House of Representatives on Wednesday evening. It's one of several pieces of legislation that House Republicans are putting up for a vote this week as part of National Police Week. The bill passed 265 to 148, with 54 Democrats voting with the GOP and 148 Democrats voting against it. If you want to know where we are in this country right now, understand it's not just the Democratic Party, but it's the fact that you have 148 Democrats, which means in 148 congressional districts that they feel safe that they will get reelected with the opinion that if illegal immigrants assault a police officer, they should not be kicked out of the country.
Right.
That's a problem that we have here in the United States right now. Not just the Democratic members of Congress, but the citizens of those districts that will keep somebody in power who actually believes that.
Yep, they vote that way because they know they can get away with it. They know their constituents back them up.
Now, that's one thing the Republicans are doing this to put the Democrats on record.
Yep. Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting, too, because, as you know, the Republicans bringing up all these different bills, they want Democrats to vote on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we look at this. A lot of times we'll look at a race like this and base it strictly on, on a presidential race. But you know that they're doing this. So in each of those districts, whether it's a congressional district or a Senate seat, they're trying to make them vote on things that show that they're so radical to create energy for those local races also, which I believe it will do.
Yeah, no, I think it will. Again, it has to come together with the ground game, with the advertising game as well of the GOP, and putting that all together and putting it on display over and over again. In those safe districts for the Democrats, that's one thing. But when you get out there and try and appeal to the independent, you get out there and as the GOP tries to do this, you put together those ads, you get those people out door to door. Your ground game's going to have to be there, but your advertising game's going to have to be there as well.
Get our Red Eye Radio app in your app store. Then listen at your convenience. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here. You know, we had mentioned yesterday that McDonald's was getting rid of free refills, but then they announced yesterday. I mean, that was 2 days ago we announced it. Actually, the story was 2 days ago. And actually, the story today says they're now confirmed they will roll out a limited $5 combo meal for the summer. It's a month-long promotion starting June 25th. You can choose 4 items, either a McDouble or a McChicken sandwich, small fries, 4-piece chicken McNugget, and a small soft drink for $5. And, you know, we had talked about the fact that, you know, are we in stagflation right now? You know, you look at yesterday where inflation ticked down a tiny bit. The inflation rate ticked down a tiny bit. But as we said the other day with the wholesale the wholesale prices skyrocketing, that came out the day before, there may be a lag on the increase of inflation over the summer. We did say, though, that because we have another story coming up right now about credit card debt and people reaching their credit limits, that people have run out of money. And so might we see when it comes to and by the way, fast food has been one of the restaurant eating out has gone up a lot higher than if you make food at home, as we know. But we said, well, there's eventually going to have an impact. If you're to go in and get a combo and it's costing you, $13, $14, $15, $16, $17, $18, depending on where you live, well, those kind of prices are going to ensure that you're selling, fewer meals.
Yeah. Right.
So the fact that McDonald's is doing this does not surprise me at all.
No, you're seeing other retailers come in and whether it's loss leaders or with Walmart trying to flex their position, which is kind of in peril right now as the number one retailer, that threat coming from Amazon to overtake that. You're seeing Walmart make some moves here, in fact, in recent days, and readjusting what's going on with their corporate offices, which affects where we are here in the Dallas area, and a lot of those employees, and they're saying, we want our people back in the office. No more working from home. There's going to be, or limited working from home. Remote work is going to be drawn down to very few people and with exceptional situations. Because the threat is there from Amazon, you see what the growth in Amazon has been versus the growth in Walmart. So what does Walmart have to do? Walmart has to get back to, and they obviously being much better at the brick and mortar game, and their e-commerce is something that they've been focused on, which is increasing. But that brick and mortar game, you get those loss leaders in there. If it's loss leaders, or again, it could be negotiating with those producers saying, we need a better price point on these items. It does include, too, another rebranding of the Walmart brand label of the things that they make. I think it's called Better Good is going to be the new one. And so they're looking at certain things that appeal to maybe the mid-tier level income, and they are looking at that and rolling that out, trying to offer whatever they can on, again, a competitive price point. That's the way it's going to be. I would expect as McDonald's rolls this out, you're probably going to see other fast food retailers look at this saying, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to do something where we get some kind of value menu back, at least, in the short term. If we can do it over the summer and compete, then maybe that will bring people back. Well, McDonald's is one of those, by the way, that's already seen people paring down and moving away from buying the meal for that reason. All right, maybe I don't get the fries and the drink. Maybe I drink the water that I brought from home and I just grab a sandwich for lunch because I'm not going to afford the $13, $14 for the entire meal, Or as you said, we go back to cooking for the entire family. It doesn't make sense to spend that kind of money. It certainly isn't possible when you've exhausted your credit limit, which about 20% of credit card holders, near 20%, have done. They've capped out. And when you're at that point, now it's about making cuts in your budget at home. And that's inevitably what we're going to see. In fact, we saw it in the report yesterday. Retail sales at 0.0. No growth in retail. That should frighten everyone that's looking at this economic situation that we're in. The wholesale inflation numbers, as you mentioned, that came out the day before, what that says for the rest of this year, but also what's going on at the retail level. This spells stagflation.
You also have, I believe, the consumer confidence in April was its lowest since July of 2022, when inflation was a blistering 8.5%. We talk about, though, that one of the reasons is people don't have money. And this story out, the Hill.com had it, credit card delinquencies are on the rise as research from the New York Federal Reserve shows nearly a fifth of borrowers are maxed out. According to the new report issued by the bank's Center for Microeconomic Data, household debt rose by 1.1%, or $184 billion in the first quarter of the year, bringing the total household debt to $17.69 trillion. In the first quarter of 2024, credit card and auto loan transition rates into serious delinquency continue to rise across all age groups. An increasing number of borrowers missed credit card payments, revealing worsening financial distress among some households. The nationwide aggregate credit card utilization rate was found to be 23% in the first quarter, in line with previous quarters, but a closer look behind those figures revealed some stark differences in utilization rates. Almost half of borrowers use less than 20% of their available credit in the first quarter. A breakdown of the report explained, compared to 18% of borrowers who used at least 90% of their available credit. The latter group was dubbed maxed out borrowers.
Yeah.
Wow.
And again, when you get to that point, then because you've been borrowing to make ends meet, and now you can no longer do that, and the only thing you can do is cut. So you have to cut your spending. Delinquencies on the rise. When they break down the max out, the people that have maxed out their credit lines, it's younger borrowers and the lower income borrowers. It tells you which, if you look at younger borrowers, they're typically also lower income. It tells you something we already know. Inflation affects everyone, but of course it affects those low income and middle income people the most. And there is that impact, and there's no way around that. So the question is, what's next? You're still not on top of inflation. But if you want to pretend you are, then Jerome Powell moves with an interest rate cut later this summer. That would be a desperation move. But we're in stagflation. We're not in deflation territory. And that's the problem. If you move on it based on stagflation, you're not getting on top of inflation, which means inflation has the great potential or likelihood of coming back in a big way. But if you think it's your Hail Mary for the election, you don't care about that.
Well, nothing is going to change how people feel before November.
Yeah, I don't think it is. You're right.
You can talk. I mean, it was. I saw a reporter ask Karine Jean-Pierre, well, optimistic numbers on inflation. Oh, yeah, we had a lot of work to do. Well, when you tick down 0.1 of a point, but as we talked about, consumer confidence just tanking. delinquencies up, people capped out with their credit limit, and as you pointed out, 0% increase in retail sales in April. Those all show some problems. Stock market may look at it and go, all right, we thought it was going to be worse. And then, by the way, that the stock market is quite resilient in that category, aren't they?
Well, again, a couple of analysts breaking it down yesterday, and it's, well, what you're seeing, the reason that the market is responding positively is it's finally we got something right on the median forecast. And that's not, as one analyst put it, that's not a reason for celebration. Because, again, look at the retail sales. Look at what's going on with the consumer. You're still in bad territory. If you have to cherry pick this thing, again, it's the market, as I've been saying for a while, it's the market getting drunk on something that's not a victory. It isn't the time to celebrate. You're talking about right now a summer that is going to see increased gas prices, up from where they are now, that most believe. And you're going to see, again, this continuation of this stagflation. Families that have more and more families that have maxed out their credit cards that are now going beyond a month in delinquency on those credit cards. And then you add in the delinquencies on auto loans. And all of this is bad news. It's where people are. You simply get back to the question of the buying power for the American family. And we're seeing where everybody is underwater. If you're not making ends meet, you've got to make big changes. And those if you don't have credit lines anymore, then you're going to have to make big changes on what you buy, what you spend your money on. There's only so much money. And with so many people going out, millions of people getting second jobs to make ends meet, if you're at the point where you've maxed out your credit cards and you still have two jobs, again, you don't have a choice.
Yeah, there's nothing you can do at that point, and that's why we've always stated that. We've said that this is why, and the Democrats didn't listen to us, but and they didn't listen. The Democrats didn't listen to Democrats. They didn't listen to the Obama economists that warned them of this inflation. And as we've always stated on this show, inflation is worse than a recession.
Right.
If you're gonna pray for one, if the choice is between a recession, the normal type of recession we have here in the United States, or inflation, multi-year inflation, you always choose recession. Because in a recession, you may have 10% of the people. I'm talking about politically how you would look at it.
Right.
People are suffering no matter what, but fewer people suffer in a recession than in an inflationary period, because inflation affects everyone. And we've seen, the damage that it's done. And you want to create hopelessness. People say, well, I'm out of a job and I feel hopeless. But within a year, most people are hired back. Most people find a job.
Mm-hmm.
It may be tough going. In inflation, it affects everyone. If you have a recession, because you have people that are unemployed, you are more likely not to have inflation because of supply and demand.
Yeah,
people can't.
Right.
There's your sales are down, and so prices are lower based on supply and demand to move the product. And with inflation, nobody can get away from it. And if you want hopelessness is when you're working 60 hours a week and you're still underwater. What are your options at that point?
And to your point, those delinquency rates fall on all age groups, among all demographics.
Yes, yeah.
That means it's affecting everyone, and that's a problem.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, we saw the protest at UC Irvine last night. More protests at Columbia.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be what we see all summer? Is the question, one of the questions.
Well, I have to believe it is going to be certainly pretty active, whether they show up at university campuses or show up in cities. I think it certainly has the potential to play out like it did a couple of summers ago. We'll see. Or has the tolerance for it, have we reached that threshold? It seems UC Irvine, the message got out late yesterday afternoon, early evening. All right, clear the campus. You're done here. We'll see if that enforcement stays there, and have we learned our lesson? Have they learned their lessons on these university campuses?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.